Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofvacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofvacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul. And this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, I am proud to host Hugo Ortega, a multi-talented seafarer who can bring a multitude of perspectives to the listeners of the show. Hugo Ortega is a Superyacht Captain, 500T, educator, and founder of Superyacht Sunday School, a global platform helping aspiring crew into the luxury yachting industry. From his humble beginnings in the Bronx to captaining superyachts around the world, Hugo now mentors newcomers through accessible, expert-led courses that break down industry barriers. He also appears on Below Deck Season 12 as the new Bosun, bringing his experience and passion for adventure to the screen. Welcome, Hugo, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's hot as hell here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but we're keeping cold inside. I'm in the bridge of the yacht I'm working on right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here in North Carolina, although today we're getting a little break because it's been 90s and muggy every day, but today it is pouring rain. So it's a relief. So I am honored to host you on the podcast. Congratulations on your unique career and best wishes on your, I think it's a new venture, Superyacht Sunday School. How long has it been going?
So I've been going since October 2022. That was when I first opened up shop with Superyacht Sunday School.
Okay. So it's not brand new. Okay. Before I ask you about Superyacht Sunday School, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you live. Who is Hugo Ortega?
Well, you wouldn't guess it, but I actually grew up far from the water. So I was born in New York City. When I was about 10, 11 years old, we moved down to Orlando, Florida. And even then, that's not when I got hooked up on boating. But I've always been an avid traveler. I've always been a backpacker. I was a former engineer. That's what I worked in oil and gas when I graduated from college. And I just realized I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to have the standard 9-to-5 lifestyle. I didn't want to have what everyone thought was, the perfect life, the picket fence, the house, the whatever. And thankfully, while I was traveling, I stumbled upon yachting. And yachting completely changed the course of my life. And I've gone on now. I'm a Superyacht Captain. I've been on Below Deck, which we're going to go into. So even though I wasn't someone that was I wasn't a water baby. I wasn't someone that was born with a boat. It's kind of become my whole life now. I'd say it's probably an obsession at this point.
Well, we have we have one similarity. Like you, I grew up, far from the water. I'm from New York City also, Brooklyn. But I have not been on a yacht yet. done a lot of cruises, but, in the last couple of years, I get a wide diversity of guests. And in the last couple of years, I'm hearing more and more about yachting and I'm interested. So you have a very interesting life. Let's chat first about the aspect of your life that I think many of my listeners have heard of, which is Below Deck. And then we'll talk about Superyacht Sunday School, which I'm sure many of my listeners have not heard of. So tell us about the show, your entree onto the cast, and your role.
So I star in season 12 of Below Deck, the standard show, not any of the spinoffs. I'm the bosun on board. Typically, Like I was saying earlier, I'm the captain on board this ship, but there was a need for a bosun, which for anyone that's not too familiar with yachting, they kind of like middle management, right? They run the operations of the deck, usually with the chief officer. But in this case, I worked very heavily with the captain carry that was on board. So that was my role on the boat. And well, I think the reason I'm on the show is kind of why the reason I'm in yachting. I get bored easy. I don't want my hands to be idle, and I'm always chasing something new. So I think after being in the industry for almost 10 years and climbing up to captain, I was looking for not to get out of it, but I was like, how do I put a spin on yachting a little bit different than I've done before? And the opportunity presented itself to go on to the show. And, I've also always wanted to be on TV. So why not put the two things together? And that's how I ended up in St. Martin on season 12.
I just learned something. So I've never seen the show. I'm going to binge watch it. But Bosun, I'll be honest with you. When I first read your bio and background and all that, I thought you were playing a character named Bosun. That's actually a title.
Yeah. So without getting too technical, it comes from the term boatswain. And in the old, English privateering or pirate days, that was basically the carpenter on the ship. The boatswain would take care of, all the woodwork, hatches, latches, catches, doors, trap doors, greasing the anchors, literally everything about how the actual machinery on deck or the limited machinery they had back then would work. And nowadays, especially in yachting, it's kind of like a stepping stone. The bosun is and that's why it's called bosun. It's like a BOS apostrophe and it's just short for boatswain. Now it's BOSUN.
Okay.
But that's your history lesson. But anyway, it's the last person that actually does the operations on deck. Above them is the bridge team, which would usually be the captain and any officers. So that's why on the show you'll see me. I'm helping with the slide. I'm helping with the jet skis. I'm with the guests because I'm still running the operations in the day-to-day of the boat. Mm-hmm. That way I'm leaving the captain to do the actual driving and the paperwork side.
Are there bosuns on traditional cruise ships? The big mainstream cruise ships?
That's a really good question. I'm assuming that you do because on cargo ships and on all other types of commercial ships, you still have the bosun. And again, they're helping the day-to-day operations, whereas the second officer and the first officer are in charge of loading and all the other important cargo stuff that happens on those ships. I'm assuming they would still do that on a cruise ship, even though, and you'd probably have the officers, they're still doing the passage planning, the navigation and all of that. So I would assume they still have a bosun. There's also a lot more titles, right? The more people that you have on a boat, the more titles you make up. There's a lead deckhand now. There's an able-bodied seaman, etc. But yeah, the bosun is I would say it's still present. Yeah.
Okay. I probably should have known that because I've been on dozens of cruises, and I've had a couple of captains on the show, and I don't recall hearing that term, but I have heard of the term boatswain, although I can't say I knew what it meant, but I have heard that term, but I hadn't heard the term bosun. So what's your name on the show?
Well, my name's the same name as I got. So I'm Hugo on the show and off the show.
Okay. So say a little bit about, for those in the audience who haven't checked it out, who are like me and are going to binge watch it now, just give us an overview of Below Deck.
Well, Below Deck's a really interesting reality TV show that's based in the yachting industry. So you've got a colorful cast of crew from all over the world, not just Americans. They're, South Africans, there's people from Europe, all over. And then we have guests that are just as colorful, right? And the guests will come. We have about 10 of them that come at a time for a few days worth. And you'll see the crew go through different trips with different sets of guests. And that sounds pretty simple, and I guess it is in a way, but we're delivering 5-star or 7-star service while visiting some beautiful locations, and of course with some really attractive people, which leads to romantic interests, drama, guest drama, some pretty high expectations, small deadlines for time, and it really just leads to, it's a little bottle rocket just waiting to explode.
Mm-hmm. So is this your introduction to television? Have you been on the big screen, or I guess the little screen? Have you been on any other shows?
So this is the first time I've been on television. It actually was a pretty smooth transition just because I guess for lack of a better term, I am an influencer online and I'm quite used to having at least the phone camera in my face. It was a little bit different with the constant cameras on the show, but this is my first time into the acting or the TV realm.
Okay, okay. So I'll have to make sure I put in the show notes. If you're an influencer online, I want to, put your contact, your social media handles or whatever on in the show notes, so that my listeners can follow you. So the new season, the one that the season 12, I guess, is the season you joined. Is that underway yet, or is it getting ready to be filmed?
We'll be right back.
Do you have a dream car? Mine is the Lucid Air. Are you intrigued by electric vehicles? The Lucid Air EV has been called the best driving car in the world. And the Lucid Air Sapphire is certifiably the fastest production car in the world. Listen to Lucid Driver Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or at luciddriver.buzzsprout.com.
So season 12 is currently underway. We just had episode 10 air last night. So that's Monday nights on Bravo, 8 p.m. And we are now 10 episodes in. I don't know how many episodes we have left, but you can definitely binge watch. I join in on episode 6. That's when the former Bosun, he gets let go because of just difficulties in running the deck. The captain wanted someone with larger boat experience, and that's where I come in. So episode 6, I come in. We're now on 10, and next week we'll have episode 11. The seasons are usually 16, 17 episodes, so you still got a little bit more to go.
Okay. Well, I think I'll start at the beginning of season 12, so I have some background, as to what's going on when you show up. So
exactly. That way you get to know my crewmates.
So what's it like to be a TV star? That sounds that sounds fun.
Yeah, I'd say it is fun. I mean, I've surprising to me, I've already been noticed out in the wild, which is a pretty surreal experience. Again, I have had people in our industry that knew me before because of the social media, because I help people start yachting and being a captain. But because of the show, that takes that to a whole nother level. It was really funny. A few weeks ago, I was at a wedding, and once everyone found out that I was on Below Deck, you would have thought I was, George Clooney or something. The amount of people that were coming to me taking selfies. So it's been fun. It's been a really pleasant experience. I didn't expect to enjoy that part so much.
Are you getting stopped in grocery stores and airports yet?
Not yet, but here's to hoping. I see a lot of people watching Below Deck when I'm on planes, and now that my season's coming up, it'll be actually really funny to see people watching my season. So I'm excited for that too.
That must be fun. I think if I were you, I know you wouldn't do this, but I'm just kind of, like this. If I saw somebody watching Below Deck on plane and I knew it was the season, I would whisper in their ear, my episode is coming up, or something. I would say something. I think, I have this thing when I go on cruises. I go on cruises a lot. I've written I think 3 books on cruising, and I always walk around the Lido deck hoping to see someone reading one of my books. It has not happened yet, but I kind of wonder what I'll do when I see that. I know I will greet them and say something, but that's sort of a tradition of mine when I get on a cruise, is just walk around and look for somebody reading my book. So I would probably do something like what I said I'd do if I were on a TV show and I saw somebody looking at it. But anyway, so were you surprised when they approached you? Did you have any inkling this might be coming?
Well, we were already in talks. So, I mean, there's an application process that I went through and interviews that I went through. So I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. Well, I was hoping it was coming, but I had already gone through the interview process.
Did you have to audition?
I don't know if you call it audition, but there's it's just like when with yachting, we apply for jobs, we send our CV, we prove our documentation and everything. And then you have, a Zoom type of interview. So that's what I had. So I had a
Mm-hmm.
few different interviews.
That sounds fun. I've had a few television, I don't want to say television person, people who have been on television, on shows and
Hmm.
things like that over the years. I'm up to like over 200 episodes, but I have had a couple of people who have been on, even in the movies, not stars or anything like that, or
Right.
but just just sounds so fascinating. Well, let's talk about your new baby. Well, I shouldn't say new, but your venture, Super Yacht Sunday School. So tell us all about that.
Well, so my whole goal with Superyacht Sunday School and everything is I want to, after working as crew for the last 10 years, I want to make that whole process as best as possible. And with my former engineering background, I thought the best way to do that is with technology. So the way I started with that is that, in yachting, we're all over the world. We're in Florida, we're in Europe, we're in, even Asia.
Hmm.
But it's really hard to have centralized information or even community. And one of the hardest things for everyone, including myself, is when we want to get into this, it feels like such a big venture, right? Like, I don't know where
Hmm.
to start, what certifications. And I saw that there was a lot of companies that prey on new people and they basically try to upsell them a ton of courses. They don't really give them any advice and they just drop them at the end of it. And it's like, well, good luck, go find a job.
Hmm.
And I just knew that with what I know, from going through getting my captain's licenses and climbing up the ranks, there's a lot of information that new people need so they don't get taken advantage of, so they know how much money to expect, right? Like the list goes on and on and on.
Hmm.
And I just thought that my calling is to put all of that, all of my everything that it's taken me years to get and climbing through gatekeeping and reading up, right? I want that to be just immediately accessible so
Hmm.
no one has any of the issues that I had or that so many people had when we started.
Hmm.
Because it's already a crazy endeavor. You leave home, everyone back home thinks you're crazy. Your parents think that you've thrown away your degree, right? Like there's a lot of talking yourself out of getting into yachting before you've even stepped out the door. And
Hmm.
I basically wanted to make it that if people thought that they want to do this, but they don't know how, or they're lacking the courage, that basically to just use myself as example and be like, hey, if I could do it, I didn't even know how to swim when I got started. Like, hey, you can do it
Well,
too. And that's kind of my mission. And it started with letting people in at the beginning, and then I want to continue. Now I'm doing mentoring for people that are already in the industry, and then ultimately my goal is to help them get out of the industry too. So I help people find their first job and their dream job in the yachting
mhm.
industry.
Now you kind of alluded to it, you kind of answered it, but let me ask it. Let me ask, what was your motivation to create Super Yacht Sunday School? I mean, I know I heard you talk about some of the issues with other providers. Was that basically it? You saw that you could do it better?
Well, it's not even doing it better, it's just doing it different, right? So like there was a big gap in the market because there's people that sell you the courses that you need to start, right? There's some mandatory certifications, like there's a safety course called an SCCW, which for cruise ships, for cargo ships, it's all the same. It's a basic safety course that you have to take in order to work on there. And then
Hmm.
there's also a medical certification that you get. Commonly we use one called an ENG1, but that's just a certification, right? That's like getting your license. Let's say it's like getting your CDL license for anyone that doesn't know. It's like let's say it's getting a license to drive a certain vehicle, but that's not guaranteeing you a job. That just
Hmm.
means you're certified for something. So
Hmm.
there wasn't really anyone in the market helping people and really mentoring people through to finding that first job. And especially me being in the industry for so long, I mean, there's so many caveats, right? Like people don't know how to put together a good resume or CV, depending on where you're from. People don't know which certifications to get, right? And those training centers that I mentioned before were basically trying to sell you the whole book of everything they have. And they're going, hey, you need all of this. So
Hmm.
people were going, spending a lot more money than they needed to, and they still weren't finding jobs. And this is just a common thing that's been happening in this industry forever. I mean,
Hmm.
I remember because I was there when I was looking for work. I was like, holy shit! Like there's people that spent $5,000, $10,000 in courses. Am I wrong? And thankfully, I had someone that also showed me the way. So I
Hmm.
just wanted to really cut that shit out and be the one that actually walks you through the whole process to land a job, because it's fine and dandy to give you a certificate and a piece of paper that says, hey, you can work on a boat.
Hmm.
But what I do is I make sure that you get to the finish line, that you actually
Hmm.
step on board and you have a job on board. I look over your contracts, right? It's like I give you basically a captain's um, captain in your back pocket for the whole process. And that's what's different. And that's what actually makes a difference, I think, in everyone's lives.
Now, who is your target market for Superyacht Sunday School?
So our target for Superyacht Sunday School is basically anyone between the ages of 20 and 50 years old that wants to change their life, that wants to completely uproot what they thought they knew and try a more adventurous and travel-based lifestyle. So some people are coming straight out of college. Some people, it's after a divorce, after deciding that they hate their career. And some people are much later. The kids have left the home and now they're looking for something else to do. Mm-hmm. So I know that's a pretty wide net, but it's basically anyone with an adventurous spirit that wants to travel the world, that wants to get paid for it. And, you know, age is only an issue up to a certain amount. But like I said, 20 to 50, if you're in there, I can get you on board.
Okay. Now, so I take it that the school is located in Fort Lauderdale?
Technically, the school is not located anywhere. It's just laptop based.
Okay, great. So
yeah.
I can get into it.
Yeah. So I've built.
I'm a little past your. I'm a little older than your target market, but anyway, go ahead.
No worries, Paul. We can get you on something. I'm sure you got a lot of boating experience, but. No, to go with what you were saying, yeah. So I built a whole, online curriculum and course. And again, it's not some certification. It's a whole coaching program through when you first find out, hey, I want to travel the world until you step onto that first boat and you've signed your contract, right? So it's the whole journey. There's videos, there's resources, there's guides, there's walkthroughs for things. And then there's also a lot of one-on-one with me. Right? So people do calls with me. We do monthly calls. We also have a bunch of messaging. And it's basically just trying to safeguard it and fail-safe it. So really, even a monkey could do it. And I can tell you, if I can do it, a monkey can do it too.
You said it, not me. So okay. I didn't realize it was fully online. So you... I take it you have, I call them, they're students, right?
Yeah, I do call them students. Yeah, because I sometimes call them just my crew, but then people think that I'm talking about the boat that I'm captain of.
Right,
so yeah, my students or crew.
So you have students maybe all over the world?
Yeah, I've got students from North and South America. I've got Europe, a lot of people from South Africa and Zimbabwe, parts of Africa, and parts of Australia, New Zealand, and a little bit of Asia. Yeah, so we got all over.
I had a guest on, in her background, she was on for a different reason than a boating school or anything like that. But in her background, to get to where she is today, she started off, I believe, the kind of person that you seek to teach. So she just got jobs on yachts. I mean, she and luxury yachts, and she traveled all over the world. She didn't know any of the people who owned the yacht, who were, I guess the right word is captains of the yacht, and they were just looking for, what do you call them? Hands, help, crewmen.
Yeah, crew, yeah.
Yeah. So your program sounds like the kind of things she would have done back in the day if it existed. She lucked out. She just kind of took a chance and got started without any formal training. But I take it that's the kind of person that you would help, right?
Exactly. So, some people do have boating experience, or other people just have hospitality experience. But yeah, anyone who's looking to get in, I basically facilitate that, because there's places you want to go, time of year you want to do it. There's, like we were talking about before, preparing up your resume and making it so it's easier, right? Because anywhere that you see boats or yachts, you can find a job, but people don't exactly know where to look or how to get there. So that's what we all facilitate.
Mm-hmm. So after someone completes your program, they are well positioned to get a job on a yacht going around the world. Just someone who's looking for crew.
Right. So technically, by the time they finish the program, the graduation would be getting the job, but it walks you through. So there's even going to be the part where, you apply for the right visas, where we pick where you're going to move to find a job, right? Because most people aren't located in what we call a hub or a base. But by the time, it walks you step by step. It's like first you do all the pre stuff, getting certifications. Then it's about picking where you're going to go, picking the right time. And again, that's working with me. And I give you the green check mark to sign off. And then it's the actual last part, which is the relocation and looking for the job in person. Because I basically walk people through. There's two ways to look for work, in person and online. And we do both of them at the same time because we don't. It's not an or question. It's an and you never know which one is the one that's going to get you that final job. So a combination of the two, showing you how to stand out, and then you graduate by getting that first job.
Now, this program, the students who enroll in this program, is it self-paced or are they in lockstep with other students?
It's a combination of the two, actually. So I think there's kind of a few different tracks you can do. Some people already are about to, basically put their foot on the gas and go, right? They're just like waiting to book a ticket to somewhere and figure it out. Those people go through a lot faster, right? We in a few weeks, they're already done. But for most people, they're kind of going in 6 to 12 months. Cause as when you live on land, what do you have? A house, a car, a dog, right? Like all these commitments. And, we got to get those out of the way before we get ship shape, so to speak. So I kind of have at any given point, there's kind of two groups, the ones that are moving faster and then the ones that are, moving like more like 6 to 12 months. And the nice thing is with yachting, it tends to be cyclical, right? There's summer season and winter season. So with the way we promote and do everything on Instagram, you can kind of see the buzz right before the season, and I guide them all in, and then we go through a little bit of a lull and then we go again. So there's probably like any 2 or 3 groups going at any one given time.
So do you have students who, let's say a student is 3 months in, 4 months in, and before they met you, before they heard of Superyacht Sunday School, they had already been fantasizing about being crew on a yacht and had been looking. So 3 months in, and they get offered a job. So they stop to take that job. Can they continue their studies or come back and continue their studies with you?
Yeah. So the program there's no expiry date. It's lifetime access. So the people that join, even when they joined 2.5 years ago when I first started, back then we were just like some PDF guides and a phone call. And I mean, they've gotten the full upgrades as I go forward and I make this bigger and better because I think that's just the best way to go about it. But when people take what do I want to say? Like when people go through it, there is a lot of knowledge that you get, right? I teach you about how things should work, legal, etc. But the main point of all this, it's not just teaching you abstract ideas. It's teaching you and guiding you to landing a job. So you more than likely will go through the whole thing in order to find that job, right? Because the stuff that you're learning at the end, how to read that contract, how to do the phone interview, all that stuff. So by the time you're getting that job, you're finishing it at the same time. It's not like you're going to go, oh, wait, there's still like another 3 modules to go. Like it kind of goes in lockstep. But the community, the asking questions, the posting, the connecting with all the other students, like that's still there and that continues on. So they have access to that even while they're on board. And I have a lot of students that they're on their ships now and they still attend our monthly calls. They're still asking me questions and getting advice.
Okay. How can my listeners learn more about Superyacht Sunday School and possibly get involved?
So they can follow me on Instagram at Superyacht Sunday School, or they can go to superyachtsundayschool.com. And when they're there, they're going to be able to see there's a big button on the top right. There's a free training. So if you're even thinking about yachting, if you're just contemplating if this is something for you, you can just watch that. It's completely free, and they're going to get all the information they need to be able to find a job. And then if they decide, hey, this sounds like, I want to work more directly with this guy, then they'll have instructions on how to do that from there too.
Now, can I ask, can you say something about like price range?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 different plans, and there's a monthly plan, which is less than $100 per month. And that's the like delayed payment, right? Because you're going to pay on a monthly basis rather than all at once. And the good thing is that a lot of people do that because in a way it feels like you're kind of paying the rest of the course off with your first job, right? Because most people are finding jobs within the first few months. And then the other option is to pay it all at once. And that's depending on if they find us on a sale, it's about $1,000 or $997. We do discounts quite often as well, but that's what they can expect. But the good thing about it is that, I mean, for all these people, when they're starting out, they're making, at least $3,000 per month. Plus, if that boat gets chartered out, they get tips as well. So it's really, really easy to make that money back. And it's like an immediate return on investment. I like to say that within the first, month, you've already made that plus the money you spent to get into the business.
Let's shift gear. Oh, by the way, I think the name Superyacht Sunday School is pretty clever. Is that your idea?
Yeah, so me and my girlfriend, we work on the business together, and that's the brainchild of both of us. Sunday school being, as anyone with a religious background knows, it's that concept of that extra bit of school that you do, right? It's not mandatory, it's not something you have to do, but it sets you up to have a better life or better whatever you have it. So I kind of thought it was cute, Superyacht Sunday School. It's that extra edge to help you stand out amongst the competition and find a job, because not everyone does it. But when you do, you definitely feel the benefits.
Yeah, so let me shift gears a little bit and talk about cruising in general. So most of our listeners are cruisers on traditional, giant cruise ships. Do you cruise?
I've done some cruising. I haven't done a whole lot. I did spring break back in college because obviously everyone loves spring break. And then since then, I've done a little bit because I was based in Miami for a while, so it's very easy to catch a cruise from there.
Sure.
I regret not going on the Virgin cruises when they first opened. That was something I wanted to do, but I was just too busy.
So distinguish that life, the traditional giant cruise ships, from yachting life.
So I haven't worked, all of this, put a little asterisk on it because I haven't worked on a cruise ship. But basically, the biggest difference with yachting and with cruise ships, and it's funny that we're even comparing them, because when I first got into yachting, that's all my family thought. Oh, he works on cruise ship. And everyone in yachting knows that's the closest thing that a lot of people have to reference. So they go, oh yeah, you work on cruise ships. Thankfully now with the show, I think yachting's become a bigger thing that most people now, they go, oh, like below deck. But 10 years ago, they would say, oh, like a cruise ship? But I digress. Anyway, the biggest difference is just the scale, right? So right now I'm working on a 32-meter or 105-foot yacht. We have 5 crew, right? And I can take up to 10 guests. So that means I've probably got a ratio of 1 crew for every 2 guests. Some yachts, you get even into a ratio of 1 crew to 1 guest. So it's very intimate. It's very personal. And it's small quarters, right? So that allows us to get beautiful anchorages and some shallow water, take the boats onto the beaches, right? There's a lot of accessibility with a yacht. We can go to small islands and still pull in. Whereas with the cruise ship, everything's just bigger. You have more facilities, right? You have more restaurants, you have more gyms and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's at the cost a little bit of the personal touch. It's more about getting a lot of people, and they're a big cash cow for a lot of these companies. Whereas yachting, it's a lot of money off of little groups, so it's just a different economic bracket, I'd say, and then the scale. So you have a personal chef here that's cooking you every meal. There is variation. There's menus different every time, and there's a lot of personality to it. But you just have less option and less space. But then you have more privacy too.
So we have some listeners who have never cruised. What they listen because they're aspiring cruisers. They want to go on a cruise ship. So I always ask guests to talk about their first time on a cruise ship, so that my listeners can get, some sense of what that was like. So talk about your very first cruise, a traditional cruise. When, what ship, if you remember, and initial impressions.
My first cruise was for spring break. I was going to the University of Florida. This was the spring break of 2012. So we went on, one of my girlfriends at the time, not girlfriend as in partner, but one of my friend group girlfriends, they were really into cruises. And, there was one of the, everyone has that friend that's always finding deals online, and telling you, hey, we got to buy this while the deal's hot. So anyway, they found some spring break deal, which I don't even know how Carnival made money off of it. Because I think I paid like $200 something each of us, right? And we had 4 per cabin, and we were in one of those low rooms, like no port. There was no porthole, I don't think. It's just, down there in the brig pretty much. And, the purpose of it, we just all wanted to hang out, go down to, we went to Mexico, we went to Cozumel. And, it was a classic college booze cruise, right? Everyone was sneaking booze in at the time through Listerine bottles and all this kind of stuff, getting it through security. And I'm not even much of a drinker, to be honest, but I'd never been on a cruise, so I was really excited for the travel side of it. But yeah, we went down to Cozumel. Everyone got really, really drunk. It was a cruise full of college kids. And yeah, we went to Cozumel. We hopped from there. We also went to we went to Isla Mujeres, and then we came back. And it was fun, it was really good. There was not too long of a cruise at the time. Like I was mentioning to you, I'm not a water baby, so I hadn't really spent much time on boats at all. So that wasn't even ever on my radar. Thankfully, because my friend was into them, that was my first exposure. And it wasn't like love at first sight. Like I was thinking, oh, now I'm going to go work on boats. Again, it was just something I did. I just loved traveling. And that was the cool part. We left from Florida and then we ended up in Cozumel. We got to see a little bit of Mexico, have some food, drink a lot, hang out, get really tan, and then come back to school. But even though I would say that probably if I could go back now, I'd probably just pay more and have one of the rooms that maybe had a balcony, maybe had a porthole. But otherwise, it was really fun. It's got the ships now have gotten crazy how much stuff they have in terms of water slides and roller coasters and stuff. Back then, I mean, it was a few slides and some mini golf, and that was pretty much it. You have the nightly shows and you've got karaoke club, etc. It wasn't anything special. I know it was probably an older Carnival ship, but it was fun. I had a good time.
Now, talk about your first exposure to yachting.
Would you want stepping aboard, right? Not like hearing about it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you stepped aboard, you weren't a captain, obviously.
No.
So yeah, from that, your first experience on a yacht, and then your progression after that.
So my first yacht was a 50 meter or 164 foot boat. It was a Trinity brand. It was built in Louisiana. And I remember I came to Florida. I had met someone while I was backpacking, and they told me about yachting.
Hugo, let me interrupt. You said 154 feet?
164, yeah.
164. So not knowing anything about yachting, is that considered medium, small, large?
It's funny because as time goes on, that gets smaller and smaller. Like if you would have asked that question 20 years ago, someone would have said, that's huge. Now you ask that same question today, and I mean, there's yachts that are 3 times that in length.
Okay.
So it's it is a really good medium size, I'd say, like 50 meters or 164 foot. It's not Jeff Bezos' yacht or Mark Zuckerberg's yacht, but it's big. It's big by yachting standards still. But like I said, the yachts are getting so big now, just like the cruise ships. Everything's getting so big that it's getting on the smaller end now.
So what were the circumstances under which you got on that 164 foot yacht?
So I had just taken some courses in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I was looking for my first position. I was really eager. I was 23 at the time, and I was reaching out to everyone I had met, which wasn't really that many people. And thankfully, one of the guys that was in my course, my previous course, my certification, he had found a job temporarily on that boat, just cleaning the engine room. And I don't know if he found it through a connection, what have you, but I texted him and I said, hey, you know anyone that's got some work? I'm just looking to step on something, because that's how it is in yachting. You start what we call day working. And that's when you're just working kind of per hour or per day. They pay you in cash and you're just kind of getting experience everywhere, just learning a little bit and then seeing, do you know anybody? And that's kind of how we all start out. So anyway, he asked his engineer, and they had room for somebody else because they were about to leave to cross the Atlantic, and they really desperately needed to clean up the engine room and respray it, repaint it soon. So anyway, I came down there, and I mean, the thing to me, even now, the thing was huge, right? It was 3 levels. There was 9 crew. It was really, really well maintained at the time. I think she was less than 10 years old. So it was all really, eye-opening. From the second I stepped on the gangway on the side, like the teak was really fresh and nice. The wood has a nice golden color. The boat's nice white, super glossy paint. Even the engine room was really clean, right? It was beautiful. And, I was like, wow, this thing is great. Like, I can't imagine what it would be like to live here full time. That was, that it was already everything was shooting around. So anyway, I went down and I helped them paint the engine room. And, I a contortionist that week. I'm 6'2". You can't tell it from here, but I'm squeezing into all kinds of places, cleaning, brushing. And it was hard work, but it was a really good eye-opening experience. And I was like, shit, like this is fun. Like it was working on a ship, especially on a yacht, because they're so small. There's a lot of camaraderie, right? You're constantly helping each other out. You really do start to feel like one crew, one family kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really nice. And everyone was super accepting. Everyone was super nice. But, the problem was I didn't want to fall in love because they didn't have a position open at the engineer. And at the time, like I was saying before, I used to be an engineer in oil and gas. So that's what I was looking for, to be an engineer on a boat. Being a captain or working on deck hadn't crossed my mind at that time.
Okay, so that's what you had studied at University of Florida, engineering?
Yeah, correct. I
Okay.
studied mechanical engineering.
Okay, okay. So you got on that yacht and where did you guys go?
Well, so I got on temporarily. I helped them paint the engine room, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, you guys need anything else? And the engineer really liked me, and he didn't want me to go. And he said, hey, would you consider working on deck? And I hadn't really thought about it. I was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? I would do that. And he noticed that I spoke Spanish. And if anyone didn't know, Hugo Ortega, a very Hispanic name.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the boat was Mexican, and his English was very, very limited. Wealthy guy, smart guy. He just didn't speak that much English. So there was only one other crew member that spoke Spanish. He was the chief stew. And for anyone that doesn't know, the stewardess or the chief stewardess is in charge of the whole interior, everything from the hotel service, meal service, drink service. They take care of the guests on the inside. Deck crew, we take care of the guests on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So she was the only one that could speak Spanish besides me. So they had this need that it would be beneficial to have at least someone on the outside or another crew member that can speak to the guests, So he ran up to the captain, threw him my resume, and he's like, hey, I really endorse this guy. He's been working with me for a week. I like him. Let's hire him on deck. And they gave me a trial. And then that was my first taste of it. And everything went well. I had a really good team. They were showing me everything I needed to know. Because at the time, I didn't know knots. I mean, I didn't even know what a fender was. I was like, what's a fender? And they're like, that shit that hangs off the side of the boat, to protect it from the wall.
Uh-huh.
So they were, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. So I was going to say, so after that, I got on board. And the first thing we did, we crossed the Atlantic and we went to the south of France.
Wow.
Yeah,
So what was that like for you? I mean, you crossed the Atlantic in a yacht. I mean, I'm sure you hadn't done anything approaching that before, right?
Yeah, that was my first time, and again, just kind of like when I got on board, it was really eye-opening. I mean, I was like, wow, like I struck the lottery, right? My first yacht is a really big, nice size. I've got a great crew, and within the first week of me signing that contract, we're crossing the Atlantic. We're heading to the south of France, and that was all I wanted to do. I wanted to go explore Europe and the Mediterranean because I had never gone there before.
Mm-hmm.
And that first yacht, we landed in the south of France. Then we went to Saint-Tropez. We did the Monaco Grand Prix.
Oh man,
there, I know.
And you were how old?
23.
Wow, listeners, you hearing this? I've aged out of Superyacht Sunday School, but I tell you, I sure would be considering this if I were a little bit younger.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. And then from there, we went down the coast of Italy, and we did, if you're familiar with that area, there's Sardinia, which is the island belonging to Italy. Corsica is the island belonging to France. We did both of those. We did the whole west coast of Italy. We went to Sicily briefly, and then we rounded the boot, went back up. We went to Venice. We spent a few weeks in Venice. And the great thing is, like, if someone's hearing this, I did work a lot, right? It was busy. It was a busy summer, but the guests would also leave, and between then we'd have long weekends here, a long weekend in Croatia, 5 days in Rome for my birthday. Like I was having a bit of both. I was exploring and then also working, which is, it was really, really fortunate. We also went to Montenegro and Croatia, and then that's where we finished the season. But I mean, that was a really good trajectory that we did.
Wow. Other than the cruise, the booze cruise you had done, had you been out of the country?
I had been out of the country. I had done some backpacking. That was how I found yachting. When I was an engineer, the company that I was working for, they went through a lot of layoffs because they got bought out. And I basically just took the severance. I threw everything in a storage unit, and I was like, I've always wanted to travel the world. I'm going to do it. So I did Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia at that
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And I had already done like a very brief few weeks in Southeast Asia the year before because I kind of wanted to try it out. I was always like, all Europeans and Australians, they always backpack. Like, I want to know if I can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was backpacking, that's when I met a guy in Thailand, and he was a yachty. He worked as a deckhand, and when I'm telling you, when he would go through his phone to show me the photos, the crystal blue water in the Bahamas, jet skiing videos, I mean, surfing, all kinds of shit. I was like, man, that's the job I need to do. Like, traveling is great, but I'd rather just keep traveling and making money.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about the future. Do you foresee yourself cruising on a traditional cruise ship anytime soon?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that because one of my students or crew, he was an officer in commercial, and I helped him get into yachting, and now he's working on are you familiar with the Ritz-Carlton yachts?
Yes.
Cruise ship yachts?
Yes.
So exactly. He's on the newest one. I think it's called like Iliad, I believe. So I'm really interested in riding one of those. So I want to see, and if he's listening, let's see if he can get me a discount on one of those, because I think that would be really, really cool. I've had some charter guests that have rented yachts before, and they recently went to do that. So Facundo, if you're listening, he's one of the officers on board. I think he's chief. Hugo wants to know if I can get a friends and family discount on one of these. Because even just for professional intrigue, I'm curious how it compares to yachting. Because they're like, I think they can only take up to 500 guests and 500 crew. They try to keep that same 1-to-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the rooms look amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
let's see. I'd like to do that, but if not, like I was telling you before, I'm thinking about one of those Virgin ones. They still sound cool. I still want to check that out too.
Yeah, you would love it. I've been on Virgin. I'm booked to go on it again in a few months. That's becoming. I mean, not like I go on it a lot. I've only been on it once, but it feels like it's becoming my favorite cruise line. So
okay.
yeah,
Have you ever done the Viking cruises?
no, Viking is one of those that's on my bucket list, and
Same.
I'm at the point in my life where I am actively checking off things on my bucket list. So if I'm going to go on Viking, I suspect it's going to be in the next couple of years. I went on a ship recently. It's not considered a yacht, but it's not that much bigger than the Ritz-Carlton yachts. I think you said, how many people does that carry?
The newest one, I think, takes almost 500, whereas the
Okay.
first one took about 250, I think.
Okay, okay. So this is a little big. I was on a ship. There's a new cruise line called Explorer Journeys, and they have small ships. And the ship I was on, there were like 650 people on there. Now their capacity is as much as 900, although they say they will never go to that, but that's what their capacity is. So I suspect that, I certainly would like to go on something like the Ritz-Carlton ship or yacht. And I suspect this is about the closest I've been to something like that. How about still talking about the future? What about yacht trips? Where are you headed? What's coming up next for you and your ship? Your vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next trip, this yacht that I'm captaining right now is very common. Our trip is basically between Florida and the Bahamas. So for anyone that's listening, in the Bahamas, there's a famous island chain called the Exumas that has, some of the most pristine, crystalline blue water. There's something about that Bahama water. It's just this special type of blue that you don't see in too many places. But there's islands with swimming pigs and all kinds of stuff. And that's usually our bread and butter with this one. We shoot down from Florida. We can get there in about 12 hours. We'll start the trip. We'll go down for a week, end it in Nassau, and then we'll come back. So that's what's on the agenda for this boat. But, with yachting, you never know. I definitely want to size up, and my next plan is, 130-foot yacht or something like that. So wherever the wind takes me, and hopefully to the Mediterranean. What I'm planning is I want to base myself in the south of Spain and basically do this, but over there.
So your trips to the Bahamas, is that something you do on a regular basis? You go there every week, every 2 weeks, or something like that, or you wait for to get chartered.
Yeah, exactly. So this boat, it'll get chartered out and the owner sometimes uses it. So no matter who's using it, typically that's where the owner likes to go as well, to the Bahamas. But the goal, and it depends on how busy the season is, because, when bookings come in, then that's when you make the decisions for it. But typically 1 to 2 weeks will be spent there per month, and then the rest of it will be here in Florida. So it kind of, you end up going, once every few weeks, once every 2 to 3 weeks, we're probably heading down there again.
Okay. So
And then that finishes, sorry to cut you off. That finishes about this month and next month. The season will cool down, and then it'll pick back up around Christmas time.
Okay. So this is not something that my listeners can call their travel agent and say, "Hey, I want to go on Hugo's yacht to Bahamas." That it has to be chartered by a group.
Well, they can do that. They can call our broker, which, for anyone that's listening that really wants to do it, it's IYC. They're here in Fort Lauderdale. They're our charter broker. But our yacht you can get at a good discount. I think for about 85 grand, you can have the whole boat for 7 days.
Mm-hmm. And how many people would that hold?
That would be 10 people.
Okay. Last question about the future. Do you have a sailing or cruising bucket list? Anywhere in the world you haven't been to that you long to go to?
Most definitely. One of my biggest places I want to go visit, obviously, would be, not obviously, Alaska. That's on my list. Somehow, in 10 years, I haven't had a chance to get up there. And it's funny now that I'm seeing more and more of my students getting to places that I haven't been. I'm like, shit. But, it's like a parent, I guess. You eventually start living vicariously through them in the photos. But Alaska is one. I've had one friend that went up to the North Pole, but I don't care so much about that one if I could do Antarctica. So I think, ironically, it's the cold places because I've already done the hot ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some friends that have done Philippines and like Papua New Guinea and some off the cuff kind of places on the yachts. And I'd like to do that too. I haven't been to Asia on a yacht. I've been plenty by land, but I'd love to see, sail into Hong Kong and sail into Singapore and also, aside from the cities, sail off the coast of Australia, head over to Papua New Guinea, head over to some of that really untouched places and fauna, Indonesia on the yacht.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Hugo, I know that you are extremely busy. However, before we let you go, we normally ask guests a couple of light, even sometimes fun cruise questions, or in your case, yacht questions. And TV stars like to have fun too. So we're not going to let you get away with answering these. So when not running Superyacht Sunday School or acting on Below Deck, how do you spend your me time?
It's going to be funny, but I got into this because I love traveling. So if I'm not acting, if I'm not on Below Deck, and if I'm not captaining the yacht, you can probably best believe I'm traveling somewhere. A couple weeks ago, I was just in Ireland, driving up and down the beautiful countryside. And I think that's one thing I've learned to appreciate a lot more after working so much on the sea, that mountains and, rolling hills, like that kind of scenery and just having that quiet, that's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
So I like kind of exploring places like that in my off time. And also I love traveling Southeast Asia. So I'm always eating all kinds of crazy stuff in Southeast Asia and just enjoying the tropical climates.
Oh, yeah, I've got a question just for you. But before I get to that, what's your favorite sailing drink and sailing food?
Okay, so I guess in this case, I'm pretending that I'm not working, because that's one thing. When I'm working, I'm definitely not drinking, thankfully. But I think when you're in, those places that you're typically sailing, it's super hot. I love, I'll be basic, like a nice cold pina colada and that kind of frozen drink just hits the spot really well when it's so sunny and hot outside.
Okay, how about food?
I think usually when I'm on boats, my partner and I, we're really big on like charcuterie boards and meat and cheese. I like eating light when I'm on the boat. So I think that's typically what we like, that and some wine or like I said, a nice frozen drink.
Now, this question you set up nicely when you were talking about going to Southeast Asia. So I always ask this of I don't ask this of everyone, but I always ask this question of world travelers, and you definitely are one. So, what's the most exotic food you have tried?
So it's going to sound a little bit, probably make some people's stomach turn, but I'll try to best describe it. So in North Thailand, they're really big, and I'm not going to say something basic like they eat a lot of pork intestines and all kinds of stuff, which is fine. That's one thing. But a lot of those tribes have really unique foods that they do. And one of the things that they do, well, I'll say two, because I get it at the same place. I fly into Chiang Mai. It's like the northern capital of Thailand for anyone listening. And you can drive about 40 minutes out on a motorbike. And there's this really small town. And Anthony Bourdain went here as well in his episode of when he goes to Thailand. So anyone can cross-reference there. But basically, they'll do one of the dishes is they'll do pig's brain with egg, and they'll cook it in banana leaf, and they'll cook it over an open fire. So it kind of tastes like an omelet, but it's a little gooier. It's really, really delicious. It's just really rich. It ends up being it kind of feels like a pork omelet, but of course there's other things in there. That's really, really good. Again, it's amazing. But then they also do this soup because they use the whole pig, right? They're cooking the innards, they're cooking the outside. They cook everything in barbecue style. So you just order up the whole pig. But anyway, they take the blood of the pig and they run it through a bunch of lemongrass and other herbs. And that stuff acts like a filter, and it takes out all the impurities and everything that you're not supposed to eat. And then they take that and they use that in the broth for a soup, and it's a raw soup. So it ends up being pig's blood soup with some innards in it. Again, it sounds dodgy, but again, it's full of lemongrass, full of herbs, full of coriander, cilantro, all that stuff. And it doesn't taste like blood at all. Like it doesn't taste irony. It doesn't anything, but it does leave you looking like a vampire. And I have big teeth, so it's amazing, and the people there are so kind, and it's like this little shack. So it just feels like you're off the edge of the earth, just eating so grassroots. You're literally eating the whole animal, and then you buy also obviously a little bottle of whiskey, and then you're just drinking, eating, and it's just like such a down to earth, pleasant experience. And everyone's like freaking out because you're this Western guy, and I'm pointing at the pig, and they're trying to show me like brain, or like blood, and I'm like, yeah, blood, good. And it's so fun, and it's definitely one of my favorite meals. Like it's the whole event, right? Getting the motorbike, driving out there, getting taken care of by the locals. It's my favorite place.
Well, Hugo, you just have assured that you will be mentioned in future episodes. Because when I ask that question and I get all kinds of fun and crazy answers, I mentioned some of the answers that I have heard before. And yours, I haven't heard before. Now, I'll tell you what I have heard is monkey brains.
Oh, yeah, like Indiana Jones too.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, but I guess that's a thing, huh? Well, not for me.
I'll have to put that one on the list.
Yeah, but I now we'll add pig brain omelets and pig blood soup. Okay, last question. Of all your yachting memories, what's your most memorable or funniest or even most embarrassing yacht or port experience?
Let me think for a second to make sure it's something friendly as well as seamen or dogs. I think one of my favorite memories on a yacht, really, it was my second full-time job. I was on a 90-meter yacht, which is, for American listeners, that's a 300-foot boat, which is very, very, very large. It was beautiful, $150 million ship. We sailed that one from Florida all the way up to Norway. So that was a 21-day Atlantic crossing. That was a huge endeavor. Anyway, we get to Norway, and the boss of this yacht, he was a very, very avid cycler. Like that was his thing. He cycled all over the world, south of Spain, all over Florida, etc. So anyway, we already had one cyclist that would usually pair with him and go. But for this series of trips that we were doing that summer, we were going to have so many guests that were coming, about like 9 other cyclists, that it was just going to be too much for one person. So then I got designated to be the second cyclist, and I would basically help prepare the bikes, the spares, the tires, whatever. And we would just go every we'd anchor up, we'd put all the bikes on the boat, take them. We'd have a driver with all the spares and snacks and food, and we would just be going up the mountains, coming down through the snow into the next set of fjords and bays. And it was just, 14 days of, 30 kilometers here, 50 kilometers there, just these unbelievable bike rides that, and not only that, not only was it stunning and, once in a lifetime, but because it's yachting and because people with money like to do extravagant things, he hired the gold medalist cyclist at the time was from Norway, and he joined, and he was the one that was designating the trips and picking the routes.
Oh, wow.
So we had this world-class cyclist, and I mean, that guy, it was like he was one with a bike. Like, he would be taking selfies and driving with no hands. I mean, down these cliffs like this or that, and he made it look so effortless. But it was just such an unbelievable experience. It was, again, one of those times when I was just, pinch yourself, like, is this real? Like, is this a job? And I still, to this day, I haven't been back to Norway, but I really want to. But it was incredible. It was on top of being different from all the other trips I had done, it was just such a unforgettable and once in a lifetime experience. I really, really loved it.
That sounds amazing. Well, Hugo, thank you so much for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast. All the best with Superyacht Sunday School. And of course, all the best to you in your television career. Now, all my listeners will watch Below Deck with a unique perspective. Hey, I know that guy. Thank you so much. As I like to say, we will see you on the ocean.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been great chatting with you. And if I make it onto the Ritz-Carlton or you make it there first, let's make sure to circle back and compare notes.
Oh, I've got your contact information.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.